Hey folks, welcome to the Hot Zone, coming to you from northern Nigeria today. We got a lot to talk about. That's all coming up on today's podcast.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hi there, I'm Chuck Holton. Thanks for being with us. This is the Hot Zone podcast, where we go to wars and areas of crisis around the world and try to bring you the real scoop about what's going on there. And not only that, but try to give you a chance to help people who are affected by the wars and disasters that we cover. So today, I'm in just north of Abuja, Nigeria. And the reason I came to Nigeria is kind of many-fold, but I'm going to lay out the three major things I'm going to be reporting on this week while I'm here. Number one is the persecution of Christians in Nigeria. You may or may not have heard about the hundreds and even thousands of Christians who have been murdered in Nigeria over the last year. And so I'm here to kind of find out what the truth is about that. Number two is the ISIS and Boko Haram situation, whether or not ISIS is growing or dying here in Africa. And number three is romance scams. Nigeria is almost synonymous with cyber fraud. Many of you probably received those emails about you've got millions of dollars waiting for you. All you have to do is wire some money to some Nigerian prince or something like that. So I'm going to try to find out a little more about that, do some reporting about that while I'm here. So those are the three main things. The road to get here has been long and torturous, let me tell you. First of all, I wasn't sure I was going to be able to make it to Nigeria at all because I didn't think I was going to be able to get a visa. When you go online and you look on the Nigerian immigration website about what it takes to get a visa to Nigeria. Now remember, I live in Panama, right? Anybody who lives in the Western Hemisphere, if you want a visa to come to Nigeria, what you have to do is you have to go to Washington, D.C., you have to submit your biometric data there to the embassy, and then turn in your passport. And then you have to wait 2 weeks and finally get your visa back from the Nigerian embassy. Well, first of all, if you're not an American citizen, it's not really easy to get into the United States. And there's not really, they don't really provide many options for you if you can't get to D.C. to do that. So I kind of sent a flaming email to the embassy and said, I don't know what your problem is, but it's not realistic to expect everybody in the Western Hemisphere to go to Washington, D.C. and spend 2 weeks there without their passports just to be able to come visit your country. The first answer I got back from them was, well, we can make our visa policy any way we like. We're a sovereign country. And I wrote back and said, well, of course you can. You can make your visa policy whatever you want it to be. But that doesn't mean it's not stupid. And that doesn't mean that it's not, self-defeating. One other thing I was told is that one of the reasons they make it so difficult to get a visa into Nigeria is because the United States makes it difficult for Nigerians to come to our country. Well, I agree with that. The U.S. immigration policy when it comes to getting a tourist visa is just downright ridiculous. And we've tried to get friends from Panama and other places into the United States, even just to visit, and it's virtually impossible to do. So I agree that the U.S. policy is bad, but how does it help to punish me for that? For Nigeria to punish me or somebody that lives in Argentina for U.S. immigration policy is backwards and wrong-headed and just primitive, really. So I wrote them a letter at the Nigerian embassy and told them as much. And that probably wasn't the smartest thing to do, but I sort of spammed the entire embassy with my open letter about how stupid their policy was. And I got back, surprisingly, professional letter from their political section that said, look, if you want to come to Nigeria, there's one way you can do it. You can get a visa on arrival. And I said, well, there's not a lot of information about that online, but when I checked, and your guy that I talked to on the phone didn't say anything about a visa on arrival, but when I looked online, it was just hard to find out. Basically, it said you had to be a businessman ready to invest like up to $200,000 in Nigeria to do that. And of course, I'm a journalist. That's not what I'm coming for. But they said, look, just fill out the thing online. You can get a visa on arrival. So I did. And I prayed because, it's kind of bad to buy your plane ticket, get over here, and then find out you don't have a visa or you can't get in for whatever reason. Maybe because you sent a stupid letter to the embassy in Washington, D.C., but whatever. So I went through that process. I filled out the stuff online. I sent it into the Nigerian embassy without submitting my passport or my biometric data. And about 2 weeks later, I got a thing in the mail or in the email that said, okay, you've been approved conditionally for a visa into Nigeria. You'll complete the rest of your visa when you get to the country. So I flew into Lagos last night. That was a long process, by the way. It was a long flight. I flew from Panama to New York City. That's about 5 hours. JFK to Dubai is 12 hours. And Dubai to Lagos is 7 more hours, with an average of about 4 hours of layover in between those areas. So all told, I was traveling for probably about 40 hours yesterday. And I'm still pretty wiped out. I've been trying to get out here and do this podcast for a couple hours now, and I couldn't drag myself off the bed. So maybe I'm just getting old or whatever, but I usually don't suffer too badly from jet lag because I do a lot of jetting, not a lot of lagging. But I made the mistake of laying down on my bed in the hotel room, and that was almost it. But dragged myself out here. The sun is setting behind me, and I made it now to Abuja. How that process went, I got to Lagos yesterday, and I was expecting a couple hours of paperwork and stupid stuff at the airport to get my visa. Well, it didn't quite turn out that way. I walked in, from the time I got off the airplane to the time I walked out of the airport was legitimately 15 minutes. And they have a special lounge for the visa on arrival people. You walk in there, you hand your paperwork over that shows that you paid your fee online, and you submitted all the data, and they stamped my passport, and off I went. That was it. And other than the fact that everybody speaks English in Nigeria, but it's not the English that you're used to, and so I really didn't understand a word anybody said to me at the airport, but I just kind of did one of these, and yeah, okay, sure, yeah, right, whatever. And off I went. Got right through. I no sooner stepped out of the secure area at the airport, and there was a guy standing there that said, "Hey, are you Chuck Holton?" And I was very suspicious because I think I've mentioned before on the podcast, I don't like to have people pick me up at the airport. That's a good way to get yourself kidnapped. When the guy is standing there with a sign with your name on it, I usually walk right past that guy and go get in a taxi and go to the hotel and just tell him I didn't see him, because one of the things that kidnappers like to do is go to the airport and stand around there and look at those signs and see, whose names are on there. And then they get on their phone and they Google those names. And if it looks like a public figure or anybody that might have a little bit of money, they just go to that driver and say, hey, guess what? You're going to give me your sign and you're going to go home. Here's $100 and I won't kill your family. And then they wait for their person to come out. When the person comes out, they put them in their car and boom, they're kidnapped. So when this guy that I was not expecting to be picked up at the airport, stepped forward and said, "Hey, you're Chuck Holton. I'm here to get you." I said, "Yeah, I think you might have the wrong guy." He said, No, I'm from CBN. And I said, "Sure, who sent you?" And he gave me the name of the secretary in the office in Abuja. So then I said, okay, well, he probably knows, it's probably legit. And then he called some other guys over, and they were wearing CBN T-shirts and 700 Club T-shirts and stuff. So that made me feel quite a bit better. And it turned out they were great. A guy named Enoch and a guy named Chooks, not Chuck, but Chooks. And they were fantastic. And they hauled me out of the airport, put me in their car, and said, "We'll take you to your hotel." They drove out of the parking garage, took a right, went about 50 yards, and my hotel was right there on the left. I literally could have walked to the hotel. And they were like, "Oh, that's okay." So they dropped me off at the hotel, and got my room, and that was it. They left me, and I was done for the day. I had planned to spend the night in Lagos simply because I didn't think I'd be done at the airport in time to get a flight to Abuja. But it turned out I would have. I could have come right to Abuja, but it still would have been late at night. So either way, 6 of one, half dozen the other. Spent the night in Lagos. I took a taxi or Uber into what they call Lagos Island, which is the nicer part of Lagos. And you don't really get a sense of how vast the city of Lagos is until you get up on the overpasses and you look down on the city, and you see it just stretches forever, and it looks like just slum as far as you can see. Most of the roads, I would say, probably are not paved. So this rainy season, it's just mud. And man, especially the slum areas, I stopped and got some footage of that, and it was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, just incredible. So got into Lagos Island, which is the nicest. Well, the taxi driver said it was kind of the nicest place in all of Nigeria, and I mean, it was okay. It wasn't fabulous, and that's not to say anything bad about Nigeria, but it wasn't like downtown Miami or something. It was just kind of a rundown cityscape, but obviously nicer than the rest of, when you're talking tar paper shacks on the other side of the bridge. Okay, I get what you're saying. It's nice. And I had a nice dinner. It was very expensive dinner for Nigerian standards, about $25 for dinner. And it was huge portions. I ended up taking a lot of it and leaving with it. Couldn't eat most of my sandwich. So I took my sandwich and got back in the Uber and headed back, and then we saw a little street urchin, some little girl that just looked thin as a rail, dressed in kind of a burqa, that was at the intersection knocking on car windows and asking for food, saying she was hungry. And so I gave her that sandwich, and she just lit up like a Christmas tree and said, "Thank you so much," in English, which was kind of not what I was expecting, but like I say, everybody here speaks great English. So headed back, spent the night, got about 5 hours sleep, got up in the morning, headed back to the airport with Enoch and Chooks, and they took me over to the local side. We got on the plane. Everything went very smoothly. At the airport, things are kind of chaotic. It's Africa after all, and they just sent me out to the tarmac. They sent everybody out to the tarmac that was going to get on the plane, my plane that was going to Abuja. And there were about 4 planes from the same airline that were all going to Abuja all at the same time. And some were bigger and some were smaller. And so there was some confusion about which plane we were supposed to get on. But I walked out, and for some reason, maybe just because I'm the only white face around, they said, oh, here, get on this golf cart. And there was a guy sitting there on a rickety golf cart, and he threw me on the golf cart with my bags, and off we went across the tarmac. Everybody else was getting on a bus. And we drove in circles around the tarmac, looking at different airplanes, trying to figure out which airplane I was supposed to get on. And you just don't usually see that at an international airport. It was kind of fun. Finally found our airplane, and by that time, the bus had already gotten there, and so I was actually like the last person on the plane. So go white privilege. And got here just fine. Felix and Austin, the producer and the news director from CBN Nigeria, were there to pick me up at the airport, and off we went directly to church. Here's what that looked like. Okay, I made it to Abuja, and I'm here with Felix Osamoje.
Yes.
He's the director of CBN Nigeria, and we are going to church. It's Sunday morning.
Absolutely.
You got to see this.
We're going to church, and the name of the church is Family Worship Center, pastored by a Regent graduate by the name of Pastor Sarah Omako.
And this is a small church. There's only like 6,000 or 7,000 people here. So had a great time at church. It is not often that I get to be the only guy, the only American, the only white face in a church of about 6,000 people praising God like there's no tomorrow. And I felt right at home. I felt like I was with family. One of the greatest things about being a Christian is that no matter where you go on earth, when you can find a body of believers and step into their church, you're home. You're with family. And I felt that this morning. It was great. It was really a good time. So after church, we went to my hotel and got something to eat. And then we went downtown a little bit and kind of drove around, got a lay of the land. I'm actually just about 100 yards from my hotel right now. I know you look here, it looks like I'm out in the countryside, and it is countryside here. My hotel's at the end of a dead-end road, and this is all farmland all around. I don't know if you can see over here, but farmland back behind me. There's some construction going on. Abuja is very interesting. Abuja is a city that was started like in the 1970s. Before that, the capital of Nigeria was in Lagos. But they moved it up here on purpose and moved it to a place out in the middle of nowhere with a lot of nice flat land and relocated the tribe that was living here somewhere else, and then planned out the town and to make it a very well thought out city. And so Lagos is chaos and the roads are terrible. And Abuja actually has very nice highways, very wide thoroughfares, very well thought out housing developments, gated communities everywhere, and lots and lots of churches. They had, I would say, probably the biggest church in Africa that I saw. On the way to the church I went to, which was only 6,000 people, we passed a Christian church that was 70,000 people. It's like a super, I think they called it the God Dome or something. But anyway, fascinating being here. Just getting started for the week, and I'm hoping to be able to get this podcast out to you maybe on Tuesday, and that remains to be seen, because one thing about Nigeria I've found so far is that the internet is atrocious. 3G speeds is about the best you can get. And sending up a podcast like this is like almost a gigabyte of data. So I may or may not be able to get it out, but if I can, I will. If not, I'll have to wait till I get somewhere that's got better bandwidth and then send it out. Either way, I hope you enjoy it, and we've got a lot more to come, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching the Hot Zone. I'm Chuck Holton from Northern Nigeria. We'll see you soon.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.